Good afternoon, everyone. I have 12:01, I think, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to welcome you to our training on Special Education Frequently Asked Questions 1.0. My name is Melinda Elliott. I'm the presenter for this training. This training will cover some of the most commonly asked questions by parents about identification, referral, and evaluation process of special education. As part of our FACTS series, we also offer FACTS 2.0 that covers the IEP process and Special Education FACT 3.0 that covers the transition process. So you can be looking out for those. Part of being successful is having partnerships with others that promote the same ideology as we do. We believe all individuals with disabilities, regardless of severity, have the right to live a meaningful life in their least restrictive environment and to the greatest extent possible. We recognize this may look different for many people. However, we believe exclusion is unacceptable as a long-term goal. Our state partners include the Network of Families Helping Family Centers. This is 10 independently operated family resource centers across the state of Louisiana. The network of centers provides support around a variety of disability-related topics. If you have a disability-related question, you should contact your local Families Helping Family Center. The next one is the Families to Families Health Information Center. It's a program of Bayou Land Families Helping Families that assists families of children and youth ages 0 through 26 with special health care needs, mental or behavioral issues, disabilities, and medical concerns. And finally, the Louisiana Council's Advocacy Network, also known as LACAN, is a grassroots advocacy network advocating for individual and family supports and services and inclusive education. Links for all three are on the slide, and you'll be able to get a PowerPoint with those links at the end. So, part of the requirements under our funding sources is to demonstrate our training is useful to families of children with disabilities or suspected of having a disability. The pretest is just a way to demonstrate knowledge learned during our training. We're going to take 2 minutes to ask you a few questions. You can answer these questions on the screen. Nobody's going to know your answer, not even me. It's just a total number. So thank you for taking the pretest. So number 1, true or false, children aging out of early steps, early intervention automatically qualifies for special education services in their local public school system. 2, true or false, each public school district has a responsibility to identify all children residing in their district that has an exceptionality, including those attending private schools. And you have to scroll down to see all of the questions. 3, true or false, 50% of all children receiving special education services have an intellectual disability. 4, true or false, school districts are prohibited from using or considering private evaluations. 5, true or false, ADHD is a qualifying exceptionality for special education services. 6, true or false, if a child has a medical diagnosis of autism, they will automatically qualify for special education services. 7, true or false, FAPE means the school is responsible for providing the best education available free of cost to the parent. And then 8, true or false, the school district has 60 calendar days to complete an evaluation. So We're going to give everybody a few more seconds to answer these. I appreciate y'all taking the time to do this. We still have a few more people that are answering. So if you're just joining us, we're doing the pretest. If you need more time, let me know in the chat, or we'll be closing it in a few seconds. Great. Well, thank y'all for answering my pretest. That's a big help. So, the learning objectives for this training are to introduce you to some commonly used acronyms, provide you answers to some of the most frequently asked questions about young children in special education, provide you some answers to frequently asked questions about school-age children in special education, and last but not least, introduce you to some great resources on the Louisiana Department of Education's website. Throughout the presentation, you're going to hear me use the following acronyms. SBLC is the School Building Level Committee. In some school districts in Louisiana, this same committee is called the Student Assessment Team, or SAT, or it could be called an Academic Behavior Intervention Team, also known as the ABIT. RTI is Response to Intervention. OSEP is the Office of Special Education Programs with the United States Department of Education. IEP is the Individualized Education Program. FAPE is a Free Appropriate Public Education. SEA is the State Education Agency, which in Louisiana is the Louisiana Department of Education. IDEA is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. ODR is the officially designated representative of the school district, and PWN is prior written notice. The first part of our FACT training will go over how to start the process with young children. One of the most important things you need to remember is to document all actions you take regardless of the age of your child. You need to create a paper trail and be able to produce a timeline and copies of your requests in the event you fall through the cracks in a district. So the first question is, my child is aging out of early steps soon. Will she automatically qualify for special education? No, your child still will need to qualify for special education services with the local public school district. Early steps is required to notify the public school district in which you live when your child's 2 years and 2 months of age. A transition meeting should be scheduled between 2 years and 3 months to 2 years and 9 months of age to meet the timelines for eligibility determination and IEP development. Your child will need to qualify for special education services which is why it's important to get this process started months before their 3-year-old birthday. If it's not completed by then, there will very likely be an interruption in services. If your child is over 2 years and 3 months of age and you haven't heard from your family support coordinator or your FSC, I would recommend you call them and inquire about when this process will start. The next question, what do I do if I suspect my 4-year-old child has a disability? You can self-refer your child to your local school district's Child Find team. The team is charged with evaluating children suspected of having a disability and not enrolled in the public school system. All school districts have a Child Find team that's responsible for evaluating students from 3 to 21 suspected of having a disability and not enrolled in public school. You can call your local school system to get the name of the Child Find coordinator. We always recommend you put your request in writing and keep a copy for your paper trail. Next question, my child already has an autism diagnosis. Why does the school say I still need an evaluation? So an evaluation done for a medical diagnosis is different than evaluation done for a school classification. A medical diagnosis of autism is based on the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, or DSM, for autism. This manual includes a set of diagnostic criteria or a list of symptoms that healthcare professionals use to determine whether a patient meets the criteria for one or more diagnostic categories. On the other hand, an educational classification of autism is based on the educational needs of the child and uses different criteria than the DSM manual. Some children will qualify for special education services under another category, like maybe health impaired, other health impaired. It doesn't make them not autistic. It just means they don't meet the criteria at that time. It also doesn't mean they won't meet the criteria of autism for school in the future. The most important thing to keep in mind is qualifying rather than classification. The IDEA is very clear. Students with IEPs need to meet his or her unique needs. Therefore, regardless of a school classification, your child's needs should be met regardless of what classification they use. Next question, is special education just for children with intellectual delays? No. In fact, most children receiving special education or related services don't have any intellectual delays. To qualify for special education services, you must meet the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, definition of a child with a disability in one of 13 categories. Those categories include autism, deafness, deafblindness, intellectual disabilities, multiple disabilities, orthopedic impairment, emotional disturbance, specific learning disability, speech or language impairment, traumatic brain injury, or visual impairment, including blindness. Louisiana Bulletin 1508, also known as the Pupil Appraisal Handbook, is the state's guidance for evaluating children for special education services. The handbook goes into great detail about the specific requirements for each special education exceptionality. That guidance is written for professionals, but it's available online. Parents can access it at the Louisiana Department of Education website. It's Louisiana Believes, that's with an S, all one word, .com website. Later on in the training, I'll show you where to find it online. Next question. Do children with only speech delays really qualify for special education services? Depending on the severity, children with speech or language delays can qualify for special education services if they meet the Bulletin 1508 criteria. Children with a speech or language impairment means a communication disorder such as stuttering, impaired articulation, language impairment, or a voice impairment that adversely affects the child's educational performance. The only way to know if your child's impairment is severe enough to qualify for services is to have them evaluated. For some kids, speech or language impairment may be part of a larger learning disability, and it might be provided as a related service. For other children, it might be a direct service, as it's the only issue the child is currently exhibiting. So it's important to have a full evaluation completed to know if your child would benefit from just speech and language services or if they need other services too. So we have some mini polls in this one. This is one of our mini polls. Give us just a second. Okay. What percentage of Head Start enrollment must be reserved for children with disabilities? So you have three choices: 5%, 10%. There is no requirement. I'll give it just a few more seconds. You can go ahead and share the results on this one. So nobody said 5%. One of us said 10%, and three of us said there's no requirement. So let's go look at the answer. So the answer is 10%. Federal law says that each Head Start program must reserve at least 10% of their enrollment for children with disabilities. Another unknown thing about Head Start is the income requirement for children with disabilities is different than those without disabilities. So while lots of parents don't consider Head Start because they think they make too much money, many might qualify because of the higher income allowances for children, for families of children with disabilities. So let's go on to talk about school-age children. Those fact questions about school-age children. Most students that have a known disability are usually evaluated before they start school, but in some cases when a child has a known disability and it wasn't impacting their education, parents chose not to go through the evaluation process. Also, some of those children might be on what we call a 504 plan, receiving accommodations. Then there's other children that when they hit a certain grade, they might need more support. And for children with learning disabilities, you might not recognize those disabilities until they enter a formal education setting with academic demands. Additionally, due to injuries and illnesses, some children may acquire a disability or special health care need that suddenly requires them to need services they never needed before. So our first question, is it true that students enrolled in private schools can be evaluated for free? Yeah. The local school district is required to perform child find duties and evaluate any child suspected of needing special education services in their district. even if they're in a private school. The local school districts shall ensure that all students with exceptionalities residing in the district, including students with exceptionalities who are homeless or wards of the state, and students with exceptionalities attending private schools, regardless of the severity of their disability, and who require special education and related services are identified, located, and evaluated. If your child's attending a private school and you'd like to have him or her evaluated, check with your school to see if they have someone there that handles the referrals to Child Find. If not, you can contact Child Find directly. Remember, keep copies of all documentation and document all of your phone calls too. So what do I do if my child is struggling in school? If your child is struggling in school, the first thing you should do is talk to the teacher, the classroom teacher. There's lots of things to look at. If this is your child's first year in a formal school setting, is he or she adequately prepared for school? Is your child attentive in school? Is there any behavior your child is exhibiting that is causing them not to learn? Is your child completing classwork and homework regularly? Does your child attend school regularly? Those are some reasons why a child might not be doing well in school. However, there are many other reasons why a child might struggle in school, including disabilities that make learning a little tougher and might require more interventions or more specialized support. If you believe your child was adequately prepared for school and there's no obvious problems, or if you already know your child has a disability impacting his or her learning, you should ask to have your child referred to the school building level committee, also known as the SBLC. Sometimes it might be called the Student Assessment Team or the Academic Behavior Intervention Team. But you want to refer your child to be monitored and provided with RTI interventions. RTI is response to interventions. The classroom teacher or parent can make this request. Regardless of who makes it, we recommend parents still send a request in writing and keep a copy for your paper trail. I can't emphasize the importance of maintaining your organized records of all documentation and requests made to the school or school district. Embrace this motto: if it isn't written down, it didn't happen. So who and what is the school building level committee, that SBLC? It's a general education, data-driven, decision-making committee that reviews and analyzes all screening data, including response to intervention results, to determine the most beneficial option for struggling students. All Louisiana school districts have an SBLC, school building level committee. However, a few school districts change the name and call it either a student assessment team or academic behavior intervention team. Regardless of what it's called, they all serve the same purpose: to review data to make decisions. Standing committee members consist of the principal or the principal's designee, the classroom teacher, the referring teacher. The parent is invited to participate, and the student may or may not attend the meeting. Other participants might be the school social worker, the school counselor, the school nurse, an interventionist, or a 504 coordinator. It's the job of the school building level committee to discuss the student's difficulties. The committee concentrates on one student at a time, reviewing and analyzing all screening data, including RTI results, to determine the most beneficial option for the student. So y'all can put questions in the chat box as I'm going along if you want to. as many as you want, or you can save questions for the end. Either way, let me check the chat box real quick. Nope, I don't see any questions, but I'll stop again here in 10 or 15 slides to check and see if anybody has any questions, unless I notice them along the way. Let's see. So, what is RTI, response to intervention? It's a multi-tiered approach to early identification and support of students with learning or behavior needs. It's an instructional approach that serves two purposes. One purpose is to provide early intervention services to struggling students to improve their skills. And the second purpose is it's an option that can be used to identify students who have learning disabilities. Early in the year, your child's school can start looking at everyone's skills in reading, writing, and math. They can provide targeted teaching called interventions to help struggling students catch up. A big part of the RTI process involves closely monitoring student progress. That way, the school can see which kids need more academic support. If you look inside any general education classroom, you're going to see different students struggling for different reasons. Some kids may have undiagnosed learning and thinking differences. Others could be trying to pick up English as a second language. And some might be shaky on certain skills due to frequent absences or inadequate teaching. It's often hard for a teacher to tell right away which students are struggling or why. Response to intervention aims to identify struggling students early on and give them the support they need to be successful in school. The word intervention is the key to understanding what RTI is all about. The goal is for the school to intervene or step in or start helping before anyone falls far behind. Response to intervention isn't a specific program or type of teaching. It's a proactive approach to measuring the student's skills and using data to decide which types of targeted teaching to use. So, response to intervention is broken down to 3 tiers. They include the biggest tier, Tier 1. That's when the general education teacher measures the skills of the entire class using a universal screening tool. Class-wide interventions can be provided if they are needed during Tier 1. Tier 2 is a smaller tier. That's when students that don't respond to Tier 1 interventions are provided small group instruction. That's in addition to the regular classroom instruction, not a replacement. So if they get targeted interventions in math, they should still be taking regular math. They're kind of like getting a double dose. Tier 3, which is the smallest group of students, are where more intensive interventions are used for that small percentage of students that haven't responded to Tier 2 interventions. That often includes referrals to special education. When done with fidelity, response to intervention will often support struggling learners with appropriate interventions and eliminate the need for additional supports like special education. The next question, can the school refuse to evaluate my child until he goes through the RTI process? I get this question a lot. No. The answer is no. On January 21st of 2011, the Office of Special Education Programs in the United States Department of Education sent a memorandum to all the state's Department of Education offering clarity on the use of response to intervention. The memo specifically says that a school district cannot delay or deny the evaluation process due to RTI. That being said, many school districts ask parents to give them a chance to do RTI so they can determine if the child just needs some very targeted targeted interventions to catch them up. If a child can be caught up with targeted interventions, that's usually the best thing for the student. Can the school use my private evaluation to expedite the evaluation process? Certainly. The school district can consider and should consider any documentation you provide, including any private evaluations when a child's referred to the school building level committee. However, most private evaluations don't meet all the requirements outlined in Bulletin 1508, the Pupil Appraisal Handbook. Therefore, the school district will probably want to do at least a partial evaluation, but often they go ahead and do the complete evaluation. Can the school district refuse to evaluate my child? The school building level committee can decide not to refer the child for a special education evaluation if they believe the child will not qualify or meet one of the special education exceptionalities. The school district is then required to give the parent a prior written notice stating why they will not be evaluating your child. As a parent, you can ask for an independent educational evaluation, and the school district will need to do one of two things. Either one, agree to pay for the private independent educational evaluation, or two, file a due process request showing why they believe the child is not a child with a disability in need of special education services. So exactly what is this prior written notice? The prior written notice is documentation to ensure that a parent understands special education and related services which a school district has proposed or refused to provide to a student. The word prior can be confusing. Sometimes people confuse it to mean it must happen before a meeting. It might sound misleading, but it's meant to provide parents with a notice that the school district is or isn't taking action. Prior written notice must include a description of the action proposed or refused, an explanation of why the school district proposes or refused to take action, a description of any other options considered and the reasons for rejection of those options, a description of each evaluation procedure, assessment, record, or report the school district uses the basis for the proposal or refusal to take action, a description of any other relevant factors, and the parent's dispute resolution options. As mentioned on the previous slide in question, if a parent asks for an evaluation and the school district refuses, they're supposed to give prior written notification. Some other reasons the school must give prior written notification includes the consent to evaluation, or the student is found to be ineligible for special education services, or the school district refuses to provide an independent educational evaluation, or an initial placement determination, or a change in the restricted environment along the continuum of placement alternatives, or changes in IEP services. All of those things are reasons that you're going to get that prior written notice. Is it true my child can't be suspended if he's in special education? Idea is clear that any student with a disability or suspected of having a disability can be suspended for up to 10 school days for violating the Code of Conduct. However, unlike students without disabilities, students with disabilities or suspected of having a disability must be provided educational services after 10 cumulative days or consecutive days in the same school year. This also applies to any student suspected of having a disability. If you have requested a special education evaluation and have been ignored or denied, your child has the same protection. If your child's already in the school building level committee and response to intervention is being implemented because of behavioral concerns, he or she still getting suspended, I recommend you ask for a school building level committee meeting to discuss the potential lack of progress. It's the job of that RTI team members to monitor all suspensions, behavior incidents, and any known antecedents causing the behavior, and create a behavior intervention plan that's specifically for your child's needs. Just like response to intervention is for academic problems, behavior that's not responding to interventions need to move up the tiered system. Oh, another one of the mini polls. Give us just a second. So this one is, how long do you think the school system has to complete an evaluation? You have three choices again: 45 days, 60 calendar days, or 60 business days. Give it a few more seconds. Okay, I think we can end this one, but we're going to share the results on this one. I like that about these mini polls. So one of us said 45 business days, two of us said 60 calendar days, and one of us said 60 business days. So let's go look at the answers. So the answer is 60 business days. The school district has 60 business days to start and finish the evaluation of a child. The school district can ask for extensions, but parents must agree to the extension. How's a business day defined? IDEA uses terms like calendar days, business days, and school days. A business day is Monday through Friday, except for federal or state holidays. A school day is any day, including the partial day, that children are in attendance at school for instructional purposes. Calendar day is one day for each calendar day, including weekends and holidays. If the term day is used and it's not specified as to which type of day, it's considered a calendar day. One of the questions I get most often is, why is it taking so long for my child to get an evaluation? So the school system has 60 business days to complete the evaluation from the time you sign giving consent. A lot of people are confused when the official timeline starts. You always want to put your request in writing for your paper trail, but sometimes parents think that's when the timeline starts. Also, your timeline doesn't begin when the SBLC team meets unless they give you the paperwork to sign for the evaluation. Another rule of thumb is anytime the school district or school asks you to sign any type of documentation, ask for a copy and keep it in your binder. It helps you remember all kinds of information. But depending on the outcome of your meeting with the SBLC team, you might agree to try some RTI, some response to intervention first. Regardless of when and how you proceed, remember, Your timeline doesn't start until you assign the official paperwork that your child will be evaluated. Once you sign that paperwork, the school district has 60 business days to complete the evaluation. Weekends, holidays, canceled school days due to weather emergencies or other emergencies don't count as business days. So let's think about it like this. If you sign your paperwork to give consent in mid-November, you're going to run into Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. You'll probably have 1 or 2 teacher in-service days. You'll be closed for Martin Luther King Day, and if Mardi Gras is early enough, it also might be in that timeline. All of those days off could result in an evaluation timeline not ending until late February. You want to keep up with those 60 days and make sure the evaluation doesn't exceed those 60 days. Schools aren't supposed to go beyond that 60 days unless parents agree to it. It's important to note that during COVID-19 school closures last spring, the Louisiana Board of Elementary and Secondary Education extended the timelines for initial evaluations since the school facilities were closed and evaluators couldn't observe students in their classroom environment. However, all evaluations should be following the regular timelines as of now. How will I know if my child qualifies for special education? A team, including the parent, meet and review all the information gathered during the evaluation. This meeting is called the determination meeting. After reviewing the information and data, the team will determine if the child meets the definition of a child with a disability. Has COVID-19 changed the requirements for evaluations? The Louisiana Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, also known as BESE, provided waivers to extend initial evaluation timelines during the school closures at the end of the 2019-2020 school year. School systems must continue to meet standard timelines and prioritize conducting initial evaluations and reevaluations in the event there are intermittent or limited opportunities for in-person contact with students during the school year. School systems also have to have a plan in place to complete outstanding evaluations that were due during the 2019-2020 school year extended school facility closure. School systems have under Childfind the obligation to locate, identify, and evaluate students suspected of having a disability. In light of various school operating and reopening scenarios, screenings and evaluation components may occur through alternate means as appropriate, so the school system can continue to ensure students with disabilities receive necessary services and support as soon as possible. If an evaluation is warranted, school systems should work closely with families to determine how evaluation components and information can be collected safely. During the evaluation process, school systems should continue to prioritize health and safety of students and staff, as well as the best interest of the child in determining exceptionalities to not delay service provision. BESE waivers extended initial evaluation timelines for initial evaluations during the school facility closure at the end of 2019-2020 school year, but all of the initial evaluations opened after the end of the 2019-2020 school year follow those regular timeline requirements and must be conducted within 60 days of receiving parental consent under IDEA. The SIR calendar, that's the calendar the school systems use, was updated with the deadlines. It reflects those extensions, the BESE extensions for evaluations due during the school facility closures, and then the return to the 60-day timeline for initial evaluations. If you are, someone that has Section 504 plan evaluations, those should continue in accordance with the school system policy. Another poll. So, must the school system provide the parent with a copy of their child's evaluation before the first IEP meeting? Again, you have 3 choices: yes, no, and maybe. Okay, let's share these. Ooh, all 5 of us said yes. Let's go and make sure we're right. Yep, the answer is yes. When the student is evaluated for the first time, once the evaluation is completed, a determination meeting must be held. At that meeting, the school district is supposed to give you your copy of the evaluation and meet to make the determination if your child indeed qualifies as a child with a disability under IDEA. Lots of times the IEP meeting is held immediately after the determination decision. That makes it feel like it's one long meeting, and sometimes makes parents feel like they didn't get the evaluation before the meeting. Nothing prevents the IEP team from scheduling the IEP meeting at a later date if the parent wants more time to review the evaluation. Parents can't be active members of the IEP team without having time to fully understand the evaluation results. So y'all got any questions? No? Not so far. Okay, so what does FAPE mean? Under IDEA, FAPE is the acronym for Free Appropriate Public Education, and it's a statutory term defined to include special education and related services that are provided at public expense, under public supervision and direction, and without charge. It needs to meet the standards of the state educational agency, including IDEA Part B requirements. It needs to include an appropriate preschool, elementary school, or secondary school education in the state involved. And it's provided in conformity with an IEP. Then it's provided to ensure each child with a disability is receiving their educational services in the least restrictive environment. That's the LRE. FAPE is often considered the cornerstone of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. A child that's receiving FAPE should be making progress in light of the child's circumstances, regardless of the severity of their disability. That's why it's so important to be an active participant in your child's education. You need to know if your child's making adequate progress. What can I do if my child's being bullied at school? Bullying is no longer considered a child rite of passage. It's a serious problem that requires immediate action once the school staff is notified of a bullying situation. Louisiana has an anti-bullying law, and the Louisiana Department of Education has a bullying toolkit that all schools should be using. On their website is a standard form that can be used to report bullying. The Office of Special Education Programs, OSEP, published guidance to inform states that bullying of a student with a disability could constitute a violation of FAPE if the student wasn't meeting their IEP goals due to bullying. Any bullying of a student with a disability that results in the student not receiving meaningful educational benefit from special education and related services provided by the school is a denial of FAPE. A child must feel safe in school to fulfill his or her full academic potential. We encourage parents to remind their school staff and school boards that bullying is no longer something they can ignore, and they need to be actively supporting bullying prevention in schools and virtually. So, before we go into the final part of the training, I want to go back over the pre-test questions to measure how much you've learned. Again, I appreciate your doing this so that we can continue to provide this kind of funding free. 1, true or false? Children aging out of early steps, early intervention, automatically qualify for special education in their local public school system. 2, each public school district has a responsibility to identify all children residing in their district that has an exceptionality, including those attending private school. Remember, you have to scroll down to get to all of the questions. 3, true or false? 50% of all children receiving special education services have an intellectual disability. 4, true or false? School districts are prohibited from using or considering private evaluations. 5, true or false? ADHD is a qualifying exceptionality for special education services. 6, true or false? If a child has a medical diagnosis of autism, they will automatically qualify for special education services. 7, true or false? FAPE means the school is responsible for providing the best education available free of cost to the parent. 8, true or false? The school district has 60 calendar days to complete an evaluation. So I see a few people working on it. We'll give it a few more seconds. Okay, I think we can go ahead and shut this one down. I so appreciate y'all answering our polls. I so like the cat on this one. All right. Before we wrap up, I want to take you on a tour of the Louisiana Department of Education website. The website's filled with lots of great resources, and many were created just for parents. The web's address for the Louisiana Department of Education's website is www.louisianabelieves, with an S, all one word, .com. What you see on your screen right now is the homepage for the site. If you see that blue arrow on the bottom right, it says Students with Disabilities. If you click on that, it's going to bring you to this. This is the landing page for students with disabilities. If you click under Families, Guidance, and Information, where that blue arrow is again, you're going to see this. This has several documents. One of those is the Louisiana Educational Rights of Children with Disabilities, where the blue arrow is. And it looks like this. The Louisiana Educational Rights of Children with Disabilities is the procedural safeguards the school district will provide you anytime they provide you with prior written notice. The guide was developed by the Louisiana Department of Education to help parents navigate the complex system that oversees special education in Louisiana's public schools. Each year, your district is required to provide you a copy of the procedural safeguards. This handbook is your notice of procedural safeguards. The safeguards are used to inform you of support, services, and protections offered by your local public school district. A copy of the procedural safeguards should be given to you once a year, and upon initial referral or at your request for an evaluation, and when a decision is made to take a disciplinary action that results in a change of placement, and the first time you file a state complaint in the school year, and the first time you request a due process hearing in a school year, and when you ask for a copy. This is parent-friendly, easy-to-read guide on special education services. It actually comes in English and 7 additional languages. Let me see if I have any questions. Okay, so bullying. Bullying isn't a special education issue, it's a school issue. And Louisiana has specific laws that schools must abide by to do their part in bullying prevention. And you're going to get this PowerPoint and be able to see the website address. But at www.louisianabelieves.com/public-schools/bullying, you can find bullying prevention guidance provided by the Louisiana Department of Education. That guidance includes a complete toolkit for schools to implement the Louisiana laws. Regardless of your school district's policies, if you are a student or parent and know of a bullying incident occurring on your school campus, you can follow that red arrow and click on the link for the form to be able to do this. So this is the form. Once this form is filled out, you can save it and email it or print it and mail it or hand deliver it to the school principal. The timelines require the principal or the designee of the school to initiate an investigation the next day. This investigation must include an interview with the reporter, victim, if that person is different than the reporter, the alleged bully, and any witnesses. So, if you need additional support on parental rights or any other education, you can contact us at 1-800-894-6558 toll-free, or if you're in Southwest Louisiana area, you can call us locally at 1-337-436-2570. We also have email at info@FHFSWLA. People email us questions or about things that they need all the time. We provide lots of information on our social media channels like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, so check us out. Follow us, like us, share a post, retweet us, do whatever it is that you do. You can be added to our newsletter list. We have other great resources, including more workshops at www.FHFSWLA.org. We have to do evaluations. I would appreciate it if you would do your evaluation at the end of this training. We take those evaluations seriously. It helps us improve the quality of our training and our experience. Evaluations are a requirement of all our funders and demonstrate the need for these kinds of trainings and your satisfaction with the training. Please complete your evaluation. Wallace will put it in the chat box. When we end this webinar, you will be able to, it'll show up. I believe he also sends it in an email after the workshop in case you missed it. But please complete it so we can provide these types of trainings free of charge. It's only going to take 2 minutes. Everybody that registered and completes the evaluation will get a copy of this PowerPoint and a certificate of participation. If you're participating and you didn't officially register and you let me know, put it in the chat box. We can make sure you get counted and you can get your copy of the PowerPoint and your certificate of attendance too. As I promised you, I am ready to take more questions. I'd be happy to do it right now. And if you want to go do your evaluation and come back, I'm going to hang out for a while to see if somebody wants to come back and ask questions. Yeah, oh, you're welcome. People in the chat are saying you're welcome. So do you have to request a certificate? If you don't get it tomorrow in an email, let us know. But it should be in that email tomorrow. And I'm just going to sit here for a while people do their evaluation in case you want to come back and ask questions.